Yo, what's up, family? Before we start the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and share it in everyone that you can. Just get out there a little bit more. With that being said, let's get right to the video. Luke Kornet had a monster double-double versus Spurs last night as he continues his amazing season, and I wanted to take a look, so let's get into the film. Alright, how y'all doing? I hope y'all doing good. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, make sure you take your shoes off before you come in the house. And like I said, Luke Kornet had a monster double-double in this game. He has just had a really underrated season. There was an article, shout out to that guy. He was I posted something about Kornet on my Twitter. Like, his advanced stats, like, he is the 45th most impactful player in terms of the advanced stats in the entire NBA. And of course, the advanced stats aren't everything, but Luke Kornet is really impactful when he's in the game. His plus minus is always up. Plus minus isn't the best stat, but in terms of like Luke Kornet and how he impacts the game, it shows when you watch the game. Now, I'm sorry to all the Luke Kornet fans. This first play obviously doesn't have Luke Kornet in it, but the basketball lover in me could not go without detailing this play. So this is the Celtics' first play, and it was so beautiful. The shot was not made, but the process and the intricacies of this play was very impressive to me. All right, so in the first play, the Celtics go to Horns, Iverson, elevator. So of course you got the Horns alignment, you got two people on the elbows of the free throw line. Then you're gonna have the Iverson cut from one wing to the other wing with two screens right here across the free throw line. So gonna have Drew Holiday set one here, and have Jaylen Brown set one here. So it's when somebody cuts from one wing to the other wing with two screens. So he's just gonna go right over here. So Derek White goes over there. So we've covered the Horns and the Iverson part of this play. The elevator is the elevator screens. It's exactly how it sounds. It's two screens that act like elevator doors. So when somebody gets on the elevator, it opens. When somebody gets into the elevator, it closes, right? So you see how it's open right here. You got the two screens. It's open for Jaylen Brown because, of course, that's their teammate. He goes through the screens, and as he goes through, it closes. This is probably my favorite type of off-ball screen. This is like so beautiful. Jaylen Brown didn't hit this shot, but it's just something I couldn't go without detailing. Okay, now we're to the man of the hour. Luke Kornet in this game, 15 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, and his screening is super impactful. His offensive rebounding is super impactful. His rim protection is super impactful. This is everything that you want from actually a third center, because you got Chris Allen and you got Al Horford. But when those guys miss time, like Luke Kornet does a phenomenal job. And here we're going to talk about two things, right? First, we're going to talk about his screening, right? Luke Kornet is one of the best screeners in the NBA per advanced stats and per my eyes. Here we got some RAM Max, right? So we got Drew Holiday. Of course, RAM action is when you set an off-ball screen for somebody to go set a ball screen. So Drew Holiday is going to set this screen on Mamu. What Luke Kornet does here, he's going to set a very agile screen. So a very agile screen is when you change the angle of a screen before you get to the person. So Luke's going to run up to this side of Champagne, and then he's going to come over here, and he's going to screen right here. What this does is it confuses the trailing guy for just 1 second. So the person that was guarding Luke, which here is, of course, Mamu, he's going to get screened, right? What that does to him, he's going to run up to that side because he thinks that that's where the screen is going. When Luke Kornet changed the angle of that screen, that makes this guy have to guard Jason Tatum, which is already a tough task. But then he has to come over to this side and then go over to guard Jason Tatum. So it's two things he has to do there. And as a screener, Luke Kornet is at the top of the NBA in screening talent. He's at the top of the NBA in screen assists per 75 possessions. He's also just a really impactful roll man because when he gets it to the short roll, he can pass the ball. If he rolls to the basket, of course, he's 7'2". He provides a lot of vertical spacing. Here on this play, he sets the screen. They get the switch. He gives Tatum a good passing angle, actually, but we're not able to get that ball through. And then the offensive rebounding part of this. Offensive rebounding talent, offensive rebounds per 75 possessions, offensive rebounds per game, crash skill, everything. Luke Kornet is one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA. Here he shows the screening, he shows offensive rebounding, and he shows the passing here with one of his forces. All right, so here the Celtics go back to RAM action, but this time we're doing it from the side. Oh, all right, I hope no kids are watching this. But they go back to RAM action, of course, off-ball screen set. Somebody go set a ball screen. So we got Luke Kornet setting this screen for Jason Tatum right here. He's going to come and set this screen for Drew Holiday. So that happens. Screen. They get the ball to Luke Kornet. Looks like the Celtics were either going to set up some Chicago action with Drew Holiday setting a pin down for Tatum to go get the handoff, but just have something like this. Or this could have been Tatum setting a flare screen for Drew Holiday. Like, the Celtics offense just has so many things that they can do out of the same exact looks. But at the very least, Champagne thought Tatum was going to do something other than cut. That's why he gets beat right there. So this cut by Jason Tatum does wonders, right? and Luke Kornet reads this perfectly. Now, with Tatum cutting and Champagnie being out of this play, this puts so much stress on Keldon Johnson. He has Shaman in the corner, and he has a cutting Jason Tatum. So, of course, naturally, he's going to go to the cutting Jason Tatum. Luke Kornet uses that to his advantage, and he gets a pass off the Shaman in the corner, and he knocks it down. All right, so a while ago, I talked about how the Celtics use their non-shooting centers as spacers. So that's Luke Kornet, that's Neemias Queta. And the Celtics average the most threes taken per game in NBA history. They shot a lot of threes last year. They shoot even more this year. And you would think a team attempting the most threes in NBA history would be literally 5 out every possession. Now, the Celtics starting 5 when they're healthy is 5 out. But when you have guys like Kornet come in the game and Neemias Queta come in the game who aren't shooters, you might ask how the Celtics are upholding that spacing, right? So this is how. What the Celtics do with these guys is they usually just park Luke Kornet or Neemias Queta in an area in the mid-range or like right here really close to the three-point line, so they can immediately get into dribble handoff action. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen me talk about this. It's the angle pick and roll with the high ball screen option after. So they do the ankle pick and roll, and just in case this action does not work, they have the high ball screen or the blind pick action set up right after it, so the Celtics can just get into another action really quickly. So that's why this center is parked here, because if this action does not work, you can either pass to Luke Kornet, they can get into some blind pick action, or you can just pass up to the top of the key. This is usually Jason Tatum, so they can just get into a high ball screen action. But here on this play, the Celtics do another thing to space their big. So Porzingis sets the screen, he gets the switch on Blake Wesley, and Luke Kornet is a phenomenal cutter. All right, there's so many things he does well. Cutting is one of them, right? He does a 45 cut, which is usually used when you send 2 people into the post. He just cuts right from the slot right there, and he gets a dunk. And we also talked about some rim protection earlier. Luke Kornet, just in terms of rim protection overall, rim contest per 75 possessions, percentage of shots contested at the rim, guys field goal percentages like dropping when he's contesting, like blocks per 75 possessions, anything you want. Luke Kornet does that at a very impactful rate towards the top of the league. And he's just a really smart player. Like the screening angles, the angles he takes on defense, the cutting, the quick decision passing, which I'll show you guys in this clip too, it stems from him just being a really smart NBA player, right? And he's of course improved. He's credited that to our assistant coach Emil Jefferson, that he's been working with Luke Kornet constantly in the weight room and just in the film room. And Luke Kornet has really turned into a really impactful player, and you see those smarts on display a lot. So the Celtics in this game, they did a phenomenal job with their defensive game plan. So usually with Kornet and Kristaps Porzingis in this game, they put Kornet and Porzingis on Castle and like Jeremy Sohan, because those are guys that are really good slashers. They like to get into your body. They like to go to the rim and try to draw fouls. You want these guys shooting jump shots, and Luke Kornet is a great game plan guy on both sides of the floor. He knows what the Celtics need from him on both sides. So he's not a guy that's gonna deviate from the game plan just for some stats or some blocks. So here we got Stephon Castle coming up. He gets a screen from Keldon Johnson, and look how far Luke Kornet is. He goes under the screen, tries to meet Castle at the rim. You see Castle just trying to probe. Luke Kornet does a nice job contesting and forcing that miss. And then we get going down with Castle on the floor. We got a 4 and 5, and quick decision maker from Luke Kornet. We always see Luke Kornet make very quick decisions. He would fit really perfectly with the Spurs. I think Cameron said that on Twitter, and people was like, no, yes, we would love to keep him. He's just saying that he would be a good addition with the Spurs. But the quick decision making, as you can see right here, he really like rates highly in everything that's important. Of course, except for shooting, because he doesn't shoot anymore. But everything else in the NBA that you want your center to do, he does at a very high rate, makes a good decision there, and then the offensive rebound, turns out he gets fouled. All right, so here again, we just got Luke Kornet understanding the game plan. Like Jeremy Sohan is setting the screen and he's popping. Like we don't need to worry about this. And then he does the infamous Kornet contest and he misses. All right, so here we got Luke Kornet, more defensive game plan. Discipline, sees Sohan driving, puts his hand up and pass to Stephon Castle. He doesn't overreact. He stays where he's at, encourages him to shoot an off-balance 3. That's what he does, and he misses. Once again, we got screening and offensive rebounding, how impactful he is at those two things on the offensive side of the ball. Sets a screen here, gets Tatum going downhill against Mamu, and then Luke Kornet rolls to the basket with his mismatch, right? These screens, a lot of times I only talk about like the mismatch it creates for the person with the basketball, right? Which is very important too. But on the offensive rebound, the opportunities is so important. Well, Luke Kornet can get a rebound over Mamu anytime. But now he's going up against someone smaller, two people smaller, and he just tips it back in. And earlier I talked about the cutting and the off-ball screening and just his like overall IQ, just knowing where to be on both sides of the floor. Here it looks like he's trying to set a flare screen for Jason Tatum, who's kind of open, but this is a tough angle for Drew to get this ball in there. But then he just slips right to the rim as as soon as he sees that Harrison Barnes commits himself to Drew Holiday, he cuts and he's wide open. And of course the vertical spacing being 7-2 right there with the lob. Again, screening and offensive rebound, and Luke Kornet doing what's impactful as a center. I believe him and Tatum are second in the NBA in terms of pick and roll duos. I'm not sure if it's points per possession or points per shot, but they're second in the entire NBA. You think of all the great passers and all the great like roll bigs and lob threats, right? Luke Kornet and Jason Tatum are the second most impactful pick and roll duo in the NBA. Of course, we give a lot of that praise to Tatum, him making things happen, but Luke Kornet deserves some credit for that too, with the way he screens, the way he understands screening angles and stuff of that nature. But Tatum gets another switch because of the Kornet screen, does a pull-up midi on Mamu, but of course, we talked about this in the last clip, Luke Kornet getting his mismatch, right? So he's rolling, and Keldon Johnson, there's no way he gets his rebound. None, because Luke is preparing to box him out at the free throw line. There's no way Keldon gets this. Luke Kornet fights for another offensive rebound. He gets another kick out for an assist. Well, not an assist, hockey assist. All right, so here's the blind pick option I was talking about earlier. Blind pick action is a dribble handoff in which it's made to combat denying defense, or like defense is playing really high on the person you're trying to get the ball to. So Tatum is out of the frame here. He's like at the logo. Now he's not touching the logo. He at the middle of the logo right now. So that's a little too high for what the Celtics want to do. So we get it to Luke Kornet. We got a dribble handoff under the denying defender. They set the screen and Tatum gets fouled. And lastly, Luke Kornet is a perfect handoff passer. You see those in the dribble handoffs. You see those in the Chicago actions. Him being a quick decision maker and a great screener makes this good. So here the Celtics set out the Chicago action. It's looking like it's going to be a pin down for Jaylen Brown for him to go receive a handoff, but Jaylen Brown denies it. He cuts, and it turns into a really easy dribble handoff between him and Derek White, and he gets a 3. But that is the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe, and share it in everyone that you can. Just out there a little bit more. And I will see you guys in the next video. This is Nick. Peace.